Alright, so as we started our file for this trading card, always try to name it. Alright, so we start off our document and we are going to name it. For this project in particular, we have 2.5 is our width, 3.5 is our height, and then our resolution we mentioned was 300 pixels per inch for print quality. Our color mode is CMYK. Alright, so starting off, what I'd like you guys to do is for this project and for the demos, I'd like you to do basically the same thing that I'm doing, to kind of do everything exactly the same. And then if you want to work on yours, kind of multitask, you know, you can just make a new document. It's going to have the same settings there. And you'll notice on the top, why that we should have another tab here. So untitled, create, there we go. So you can just kind of scroll back and forth. So if you're working on your own trading card, that's fine, but I do want you for demo purposes just to see that you know how to use the tools. Do it pretty much the same as what I'm doing, and then that way I can see you know how to use the tools. Alright, so let's start by getting a background image. Alright, I think it's very useful to kind of, whenever you're designing stuff, you kind of work from the back forward. Alright, so let's look for a picture of the ocean. Alright, go to Google, find a picture. We can go to images. Alright, and I like this one kind of here. So if we find this image, we can just right click it and do a copy image, go back to Photoshop, and we will do a paste. Alright. So, and actually for number 4 on the worksheet, there's going to be kind of 2 answers for that. So one way then to bring in a picture, and I don't mind so much if you have a different picture of the ocean, as long as you do have something there. That would just be a copy and paste, right? So number 4, you can do a copy and paste. That would be one way to bring in a picture. Another way, so if you had the file saved already, so if you do save link or save image as, and if I just put it to the desktop here, I don't know if it's going to recognize this format. We can also do file, place embedded. Actually, it's not going to like that. For that one, you know what? Let's. This is a good time to look at our shared drive too. Let's get your pictures that we took in the studio last week. Alright, so we brought in this picture for the background by just copying and pasting. The other method would be file, place embedded, and to find those pictures of your headshots, we're going to go to GA Home, or I think for you guys it's called Shared Data, and then we're going to go to DVC, General Information, and I put this in Student Pics, bless you, and AM Session. Alright, so I know the screen is a little dull. I'm hoping that they can replace the bulb up here, but this is the path. So shared data, DVC, general info, student pics, AM, and then if we change our view to large icons, you should be able to find your picture in there. Alright, so I want you to find your picture in this folder. Now there are 2 in there. I don't know why I'm not seeing mine. I thought I took mine in AM. Maybe I missed it. Where's my picture? Oh, there it is. Alright, so we're going to place it. So the second option there would be File, Place, Embedded for number 4. So you can copy and paste or File, Place, Embedded. So number 4, the Move tool. Right? So if we want to reposition these pictures in here, this top icon here, it's kind of like a 4-way arrow, right? Everybody see this on the top? That will allow us to move the items around. Alright, so as it says there, number 5, I want you to sketch that double arrow so that I know you know what that tool is on the toolbar. Alright, that will allow you to move everything around. Notice also though, if I want to move this background picture, It's not moving, right? So what do we have to do in order to move that background picture? Kayla? Switch layers, all right? This is a very important panel, all right, to be viewing. All these little things that that pop up and allow you to kind of change things are called panels. All right, so does everybody have their layers panel? Do they have something like this with little thumbnails representing your things? All right, so we're going to choose layer 1. All right, now I can move this, and let's then start getting into transforming. All right, so a couple ways you can transform. All right, so if we go to edit and transform, this is going to be number 7. So what do we see there? What's one way of transforming? Melissa, what's the first one there? What are our different things we can do, ways of transformation? What are the options? Rotate, all right, is one. Good. Tyler, what's another thing we can do, another type of transformation? She said rotate. Skew, all right. Anybody know what skewing does? We're going to do that later with shapes. Kayla?
I don't know how to describe it, but it like makes it go like that.
Yeah, instead of being a square, it kind of like, yeah, all right, so skew, all right. Lisbeth, what's another way of transformation? What are our options here? We have rotate, skew. These are all the options. I have it up here on the screen, and I want you guys to see where this is, right? Perspective. All right, so what that does is it would make the, like a square, the front of it wider and the back of it smaller. Because if you view things in perspective, they get smaller in the distance, all right? We also have scale. What does scaling do? Devin, what's scaling do? What does that mean, to scale an object? Bring it to size, make it bigger or smaller, all right? So let's do that, all right? We have the ocean or the background layer selected. We're going to press scale, and now we can just stretch this out to fit our space here. All right, everybody able to stretch their background to fit? And then what you'll notice, once you scale or have that, you have to either press enter or there's a checkbox at the top. All right, so let's scale our background. And you notice here also that your layers are can determine how things are, the ordering of it, right? So what I did now, just to kind of show something, if my ocean layer is on top, it's actually covering over my picture. So if you have something that's not really looking right, your layer order will be important there to do that. So I think I had a question on there. No, I didn't. All right. We can also hide a layer. That's what I had on there. So I said there, number 10, how do you hide or make a layer invisible? Jaden, how do we do that? How do we make a layer invisible so we're not deleting it? Right, so everybody's seeing your layer palette, these little eyeballs? If we just click on that, it's just going to make that layer invisible. All right, so for number 10, click the eyeball on the layer palette. That is how we hide a layer. All right, so let's get our picture kind of sized. So we have that, and a shortcut, a keyboard shortcut to transform would be Control T. So you can still do edit, transform, all right, or you can do Control T. Now they have this locked here, all right? So whenever we're transforming, that's strange. Usually you have to hold the shift key to what we call constrain the proportions. What that means is that the height and the width are going to resize together. But
That's happening to me too.
right?
Yeah, I'm trying to do that.
But now, so if is it going proportionally without holding shift? On mine it is. but I don't. There must be a setting or something. If yours is not moving proportionally, hold the Shift key, and you should find that it's going to resize like that. So let's get a general size for that. All right, and we'll probably have to resize a little bit later to make that fit. All right, next thing, let's talk about, let's see, we'll try to go down the line there. I guess let's try to erase the background here. Now, I should have put some of this on here. Whenever I'm doing some fine detail, I like to zoom in. All right, so a couple keyboard shortcuts. Why don't you guys write these on the bottom of your worksheet? Keyboard shortcuts. I should have put these on here, but I wasn't thinking about this last night, and but now I do want you to remember them. So to zoom in, what I just did was I did Control plus. All right, that zooms in. All right, we talked about pixels. Oh. All right, so as we zoom in, we are actually starting to see these pixels, right? We talked about how resolution is made up. So each square has a color value. And this is really how you can see how an image is printed. It's all a pretty, impressive mathematical type of creation here, a calculation. But we're going to start here. We're just going to do some simple erasing. So I like to zoom in. If we want it, so zooming in was Control plus on keyboard shortcuts. What would be a zoom out then? Control minus. If you want to fit the whole document to your screen, that would be Control 0. All right, so if at any point you want to see everything, you would do a Control 0. So that would be fit document would be Control and then 0. Another handy one that I like, and kind of if you are zoomed in, and instead of using the scroll bars on the bottom, we can hold the space bar and then left click and drag. This is called panning. All right, instead of using the scroll bar, we can hold the space bar, left click and drag, and this will enable you to pan. All right, so I'm going to write another keyboard shortcut. Panning is hold the space bar, left click and drag. All right, and then let's go to our eraser tool, which actually I think we're going to have to do something with this image. I think we have to what's called rasterize it, right? So notice on the picture, we're selecting the eraser tool next because we want to erase this background. And this won't be the most efficient way of doing this, but I don't want to get too complicated with tools today and stuff. So right now, this picture is what's called a smart object. All right. The unique thing about that is a smart object can be made smaller and then bigger again, and it won't lose image quality. If it's called a rasterized image, if you were to make it smaller and then try to make it bigger, you're going to find it's getting very blurry. All right, and that because you've modified the actual mathematical equation to it kind of, and it's not able to fill in those gaps. So for right now, actually I guess then, yeah, we're not going to worry too much about that picture. In order to erase, we're going to right click and be careful with how you have your selected. All right, and if we right click kind of where the name is and we say rasterize layer, well, now we can go in here and we can use our eraser tool. And here's another keyboard shortcut. You can make this circle bigger by pressing the square bracket. All right, and we can go in here and we can erase everything around here and try to get, zoom in so that you don't take away too much. All right, so I'm going to say, and actually, I'm going to type this stuff up and put it on the screen. But to increase brush size, we're going to use the, which one is it? Yeah, the right square bracket. All right, so all right, so I'm going to start recording again. Here are our keyboard shortcuts. I'll kind of put that back up as we go on here. For erasing this background, I would start with my brush really big so that I can kind of get the larger sections. And then I will make my brush smaller and zoom in to get closer. As I was saying, there are definitely some better ways to do this. It's a little more involved, so I don't want to totally blow up anybody's brain thinking about this stuff today. Actually, if you have a picture you're going to use for your own trading card and you do want it to be a little bit more precise, I can talk to you guys about that. And I'm not looking for crazy detail today. If you have a little extra stuff around it, that's quite all right. You know, again, this is just practice to learn how to know what the tools are and start applying them. For your own projects, you can really spend time and be meticulous about it. I'm just trying to get the basic idea here today. All right, so we're all erasing backgrounds, right, if you haven't finished. The other couple things we're going to do is with text, shapes, and then some effects. All right, so I'm just finishing up. If you aren't finished with your background, you can always come back to it when we're done. David? All right, there is a we're going to use the rectangle tool here today. I should have scanned in my sketch kind of maybe to show what we were doing. All right, so actually I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. I know that's kind of small. All right, towards the bottom of your toolbar, all right, this whole thing on the left is called the toolbar. All right, it starts off by default, or on mine it's a rounded rectangle, and anytime you see the little arrow, and I know on the screen it's very hard to make out, but you guys can probably see on yours, anytime you see the little arrow in the right corner of the tool, that means if you press it and hold it, you have other options. You can see the amount of tools that are in there, like with each one, they're grouped together, and if they put all of them on the toolbar, it would just be too much. All right, so I'd like you to go and find the rectangle tool, all right, and then click and drag to make a rectangle. All right, for my design, and this is kind of what I'm modeling this after, I had some kind of diagonal shapes going around it. So we have this rectangle, and now on the top, I don't know if they still call this a ribbon, that's what it used to be, but we have our color options. All right, so I'd like you to change it to yellow, and then we're gonna go, so I can move this, and we're gonna kind of create a diagonal effect. So we talked before about that skewing, that's what we're gonna use here. So we're gonna say edit, transform, and skew, and now I can kind of turn it into, like Kayla was saying, like more of a rhombus. All right, so, and actually check this out too. You can actually make one side bigger than another. So this is really good for custom shapes, right? If you have something, instead of going in there with the line tool or a brush, all right, you can really make some kind of cool shapes with this. All right, and then just like the transform tool, we have at the top, you can't really do anything else. You can press enter, or I just clicked on the move tool and I have something like this. And I think I want to make it a little bit bigger. I wonder if I can go back, if I want to re-skew it and make that bottom bigger. No, it's not letting me do that. Well, that one's working. All right, so let's get a diagonal line like that. All right, and we're going to put some text in there soon. And then talking about layers, to make a copy of it, all right, so I'm going to have I want to have like a mirror image of it on the bottom. So let's watch this first, and then you guys can do it. So, so if I look at my layer over here, I'm going to right-click it, and I'm going to say Duplicate Layer. All right, is it thinking? Oh, here we go. So I got a little pop-up here I didn't see on the side. So it's asking me if I want to, I could rename it right here if I wanted to. You'll see that you have a layer here. All right, they're right on top of each other. That's why it didn't look like anything. So now I'll just drag it down. And then I want to make a mirror image of that. So here's another transform option. Edit, transform, and I can flip vertical. So check that out. Now I have this thing that's, you know, the inverse of that on the bottom. All right. So to do that again, all right, so if I go back, and actually here's something else too. Control Z, all right, is another keyboard shortcut to undo. Let's add that. Control Z. So if we do a Control Z, it's going to unmove it. All right, and if you keep doing Control Z, it's going to keep undoing. And I don't know how many times. I think there's a limit to that. So I could kind of redo. So I'm going to, the point of that is so that I can show you how to do this again right now. But you could kind of just keep undoing. And I believe there is a redo also, so it'll move forward. Or we can use what's called the history panel. And this shows you everything you've done. All right, so if I wanted to go back and keep undoing, instead of pressing Control Z, I can go through that list. Or if I want to go back forward, it's going to move forward. Now the key, or the thing with that is though, however, if you go back and if I undid this and then do something else, it's going to erase all these future steps. So you have to kind of be careful in how you're using that undo. All right, so I made my, I'm just going to do my rectangle again. In case you missed it the first time, I'm going to click and drag to make a rectangle. I can choose my color up here. You can add what's called a stroke, which would be a border around it, and change the thickness of that line. There's a bunch of options you can do there. All right, but then we did do, let's see, I then transformed it by skewing. All right, so I went to the side and I kind of moved it up like that. And then I can, I want to make this a little thicker. So I'm going to go something like this. And then I duplicated the layer. Another way to duplicate is just to drag it down to the new layer icon. You know, there's more than one way to do things in Photoshop and a lot of other programs. So I'm trying to expose you guys to different ways, whether you're a keyboard shortcut person or if you like the pull downs. There are a lot of different ways. So now I'm going to flip this vertically, and then I'm going to have this one going down here. All right, so I'm trying to get this filled in. What are the other shape options we have? Click on your shape tool. We used a rectangle, right? So we're on 14. What are some others that we have as options? Connor? You have a question? All right. Click on your shape tool. What are our other options? This is... All right, stop. Hold on, wait, I want to see if other people are paying attention. Thank you, Chin. Polygon, that is correct. Nico, what's another shape tool or another shape we can create?
Square.
Well, it's technically a rectangle in there. Hold that tool. I'm asking you, not because I want you should know this, but I want you to know where to find it, right? So press and hold your shape tool. What are the options there? We said rectangle, rounded rectangle. There's 4 more.
Ellipse.
All right. Thanks, Paulie. What else? Haley? We said polygon. We have the line and the custom shape, right? All right, so those are the different types of shapes. All right, let's talk about some kind of modifying of things. All right, if we wanted to make our picture or the background maybe faded out, do some color options. All right, I'd like everybody to look up here right now, stop what you're doing, because a lot of times, and as I say this stuff, and I have to kind of get in the habit of doing this as well, you guys are trying to do it as you're watching, and you miss a step as your eyes are going back and forth. All right, so let's just focus up here. I can put on some blocking stuff. Hold on one second. All right, so to do a lot of effects to images, shapes, text. All right, on the bottom of your layers palette, you have a couple things here. All right, please keep watching. Color adjustments. We can do what's called these adjustment layers. All right, so I know I have that on there. Adjustment layers examples for number 11. There's a bunch in here, right? We have solid color, gradient, pattern, brightness, contrast. These are all kind of colorizing things, right? From here to here. So you just put 2 of them down, right? You don't have to write them all. I think some of the most useful ones are brightness and contrast, right? So you think of photo editing, and we'll say the hue and saturation. I think those are very useful, all right? So let's look at, first off, the hue and saturation. All right, we can have a little bit of fun here maybe with this. So you'll see a little pop-up that comes up. All right, please keep watching, and then we'll have some time. All right, so right now, you can see my picture changing, right? What else is changing though? Of not only the color of my picture, it's changing the background, right? So very importantly, if you press this icon with the down arrow, it isolates the color changes to just my picture. So I can turn just myself into Shrek or something like that, right? All right, so let's all go do that now. Select your picture, click on, and actually I think I have a question there. What does that look like? No, that's layer effects. Oh, adjustment layer, number 13. What's it look like? What does this icon look like?
Is a half a circle.
Half a circle, right? So you should be drawing a circle and shading in half of it. All right, this is my way. This is going to be a reference sheet. So as you're doing stuff and you say, I know what I want to do, but I forget how to go do that. So this is going to help you to do that. All right, and all this process is what's called non-destructive editing. So we talked about the history palette and being able to undo things. Well, at some point, if we were to go in here in our history palette and we said, you know what, I don't want to erase all that stuff. All right, I want to go back to this point. But now I lose everything after that I've done. All right, so because with I'm going to go back here. All right, and I could actually undo this or take off this adjustment layer. And I can just delete that at some point, and it's going to remove that color change. So I could do 5 other things after this, and I could come back and kind of delete that stuff, and it's not going to modify any of that. So our non-destructive editing, I always have to think about how to term this. It does not modify pixels. I know that's maybe not the best definition, but it's kind of like the smart objects, right? So let's just say that for number 12, and maybe as we do things more, it makes more sense. So number 12, non-destructive editing does not modify pixels, similar to smart objects. All right. So did everybody experiment with some was text and actually layer effects? Actually, yeah, let's look at that. We won't go into text today because that's not even on the thing there. So layer effects is similar to your adjustment layers. So if we wanted to maybe put a drop shadow on our shapes, we could go down the bottom. Some examples. So for number 8, layer effects, drop shadow is a good one. Stroke is another one. List 2. Outer glow is kind of cool too. So let's do a drop shadow on our shape. And we can adjust. Why am I not seeing anything here? All right, so we do have some opacity here. I think our blending mode should be normal. Huh. That distance was like huge, so it's like going off. So you have to really work with these sliders in here, right, to kind of get it to be the way you want. Mine was like really big by default, this the value of the distance. So if you aren't seeing it, you may have the same thing there. So we have that there. You can change the color. All right, and that would be something like that. So some examples, again, are drop shadow, stroke. The layer effects looks like an FX, right? If we look at the bottom of that layer palette, it just looks like an FX is what it says there. All right. I'm going to kind of stop what we're working. Those are probably, you know, that's a lot of stuff even though we didn't amount to a whole lot there really, right? So let's though save this. First we're going to do a save as, make sure that we have our format is PSD. All right, so number 15, the PSD file retains layers. All right, so we're looking at 15 on the worksheet. That will retain the layers. So I do make sure that you're saving this to your student folder. Call it tradingcard.psd. All right, then we're going to do a file, save as. You get this compatibility mode that pops up. I'm going to say don't show again. That's fine. I'm also going to save it as a JPEG. All right, that is a it will flatten all the layers together, but is a smaller file size. So it flattens the layers, but has smaller file size. All right, and that would be the kind of con of a Photoshop document, is that it has a really big file size. So what I'd like you to do is save it as a JPEG. All right, and then kind of starting our summaries. All right, this is the format we're going to be doing. Joe, I'll talk to you after this. All right, so in Twitter, all right, is the platform I'd like you to use for posting things. We are going to tweet. We're going to say we can click on the picture icon at the bottom here, all right, to load the where did I save? Uh-oh. That's important. Oh, I didn't finish saving. All right. So, under JPEG options.
Excuse me, what was the command to bring import a picture?
Hold on. Let me finish here and we'll go back. So in Twitter, we're going to upload this picture, and we learned some basic Photoshop tools like placing images, erasing, etc. I'm just we'll make it brief for today. And what I want you guys to do so that I see it, it's time. All right. At OCVTS Multimedia, very important. You put that at the end of your post. And then tweet. So normally you wouldn't tag yourself, but that's what I did here today. All right.